brute force. If it doesn't work, you're just not using enough. You're listening to SOFREP Radio, special operations military news, and straight talk with the guys in the community.
Hey, what's going on? It is Rad with SOFREP Radio, your stoked host to bring an awesome guest to the show today, okay? We have a really cool guest. You already know who it is because you clicked on the link. But before I tell you his name, let me go ahead and tell you about the merch store, right? Gotta say it, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, it's called sofrep.com/merch. We have branded goods of items. We have our SOFREP logo on everything. Brandon Webb's cool logo on shirts. You can rock that around all around the world. We get tagged everywhere from you guys and gals. So thank you so much for the tags. The second thing that we have that's really passionate to hear us here at SOFREP is going to be our book club. So it's sofrep.com/book-club. That's book-club. Go check it out. See if there's a cool book in there for you to read. Perhaps we can get our next guest book into the book club. We'll work on that. But first, allow me to introduce Brennan Morton to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
The studio audience is going crazy for you right now, okay?
I'm sure.
I go back and re-listen to these, and I hear myself clapping every time. I'm your biggest fan. You got to understand when we listen to this. So, Brennan, what are you cracking open there, buddy? What is that?
Fit Aid.
Nice, Fit Aid. I got myself a nice spot of tea. Let me go ahead and read a little bit about your book, if I may. Actually, Let me read a little bit about you. Hold on one second here. Where's my author? After graduating from University of New Hampshire, Brennan Morton joined the U.S. Marine Corps as an enlisted, where he became a sniper, breacher, and team leader in the Reconnaissance Battalion. He deployed for 2 combat tours in Iraq before opening a gym in Northeastern Pennsylvania, where he currently lives with Christine and their daughter, Pepper. Yep. Well, awesome, bro. Okay, cool. So I don't want to get into what you're doing now. I want to kind of get into what you're doing then, and then we'll get into now because that's really interesting. I also read somewhere that you got out of the military, all right, and you were advised to go to the VA to get some therapy, and this is how you got the book to come out and to talk about some of these things that are inside of you that you've been taught to keep inside of you for, you've been taught, like swift, silent, deadly silent, right? So I praise to you for that, but thank you also for sharing your stories and the things that you had to go through that we're about to like crack open, right? But let me ask you, I also read that, you're a college educated individual, right? You, I think, found the need to serve after 9/11, am I?
Well, I'd always wanted to serve. Like I think college was my parents kind of like pushing me away from the military. It was something I always wanted to do. And my parents convinced me for, hey, just go do this, and we'll see if you still feel like the military after. And like a bolt from the gods, 9/11 happened while I was in college, and that pretty much solidified it for me that as soon as I graduated, I started the process of getting signed up and shipping and stuff like that. So.
When you enlisted in the Marine Corps, I'm going to ask you about the uniform. Yeah. Was the uniform digital, like the one that I'm wearing to, give you some love here?
We've just been switching over. Some guys were still wearing the old digi-camels, the old school guys on certain days, and we were out in the bush. But we were all switching over to digis and stuff like that.
You guys were all getting over into the digi, so that was the time frame. Everything was going down, and I think like Operation Enduring Freedom was wave 2003, 2004 were like the first waves. What waves did you start getting attached to?
So we were after the Battle of Fallujah. So our pipeline takes a little bit by the time. So I enlisted in 2004, and by the time we got over there, I believe my first deployment was either late 2005, early 2006, or 2006. And so Fallujah's already happened. A lot of the cities have already happened, and now we are holding land, which is a strange mission set for what we did. But there was very little else going on. So we got over there, and a lot of the major battles have happened. We grabbed the land, we got everything we wanted. And so now we were in a place where we were just holding, which is for us was not where we really shine as a unit. But we're doing the same thing that we actually at one point had a mission set where we went up to Tartar, and there was the Rangers, there was the SEALs, there was SF, there was Delta, and we're all asking each other, "Hey, you got some missions? Hey, you got missions?" So it was a weird time to be, I think, in the special operations, just because they didn't know how to use us or where to use us. We were just holding land, which is not our mission set for the most part. So it was a strange time. We were one of the first. We were one of the first recon units. We were there when it actually got bad to be holding land, where they figured out how to start, really messing with us and stuff like that.
Becoming unconventional themselves and doing things like outside the regular just like. So let me step back real quick and introduce again your Marine reconnaissance from the second Battalion?
Yep, 2nd Battalion.
2nd Battalion Marine Corps, United States Marine Corps. So you are trained in amphibious assault. You are trained in land assault.
Yep.
You are trained in counter, terrorist, probably anti-threat assault. You are trained to, recon.
Yeah.
Right? And is it anything like Heartbreak Ridge? The movie?
Some of it. I mean, that movie kind of stands out as kind of like, I hate to say, like the best and the worst. Where they really make a movie of it. There's other good books about it. Like God, what the hell was that?
Valhalla Boys is what I wanted to jump out here about,
Valhalla
which
Boys,
is your book.
The best of them.
Yes.
There's other books about it. It was actually Tom Clancy did a great one about Force Recon with God, what was that book? No Remorse or Little Remorse or something like that. So that I think it changed talking to the older guys who had been through our gunnies, our platoon sergeants, stuff like that, like how we've changed. And I was actually just on another podcast talking with a guy who has been updated about since I got out. It's completely changed again, where now our whole unit's been attached to a different thing. Snipers have been brought in away from stay platoons. And so I think it's just an ever-evolving thing about how they're doing. I think now it's attached to the infantry training battalion. So you either go like recon or infantry, where before it was you were all infantry and then you came over to recon. So that was a huge change. So I think it's changed multiple times since I've been in.
Is second Battalion Recon, is that East Coast or?
Yes, we're the East Coast boys. First is West Coast. Third is
yes, is Okinawa. Right. I got a friend that went over to Okinawa, as you call it, from First.
Yep.
But total surfer looking dude. You wouldn't think he was recon.
Yeah, that was one of the major differences. I had some friends come over from the West Coast for our schoolhouse together. And their amphib was way different than our amphib. We're on Chesapeake Bay. Like we're in like these little waves that are about this big, getting Zodiacs out. And he was showing me videos of their trying to get out past the surf that's just 6 foot, at worst. You're just
curls over. Yeah.
But then their land nav was open desert. You could see your nav point for a mile, and we were in the mountains of Virginia, just getting lost, 3 feet. So it was. So everyone had different training.
Yeah, that's legit, right? And so your theater of operation in the Marine Corps, what would that have been? Does it just turn into wherever the Marines need you? Like in a Special Forces unit, you've got the 19th group. They're the theater of the Pacific. Okay, so they operate in the Pacific area of the world and other units.
So I think Recon is special in the fact that this is gonna sound stupid. We don't specialize as far as theaters, because we are, in theory, we're supposed to be attached to a bigger battalion, a muse, some kind of bigger unit, and we're doing their reconnaissance. So it doesn't matter where. So we had guys riding the muse around the Pacific,
which is
Marine.
And a muse is a Marine expedition unit, right?
Yeah. So they're floating around in a ship, and they were called off that. They were jumping on a helicopter, going to all kinds of different scenario stuff. I had friends who were down in South America. I had friends. And so we're trained with a broad skill set, jack of all trades, master of none, where we could do pretty much anything. Just give us the task and we'll kind of spin up really quick on that. But we don't have enough people to specialize the SF does. My battalion, when we went to Iraq, we were 120 shooters total for the entire battalion. And you take that over 3 battalions, and then a 5th sat of Hawaii, a reserve unit, and I think there's one in Louisiana, something like that. So it's not a huge unit compared to SF and stuff like that. So I think it's more of a general skill set that we're given, and then we go from there. So our workup for Iraq was totally different than I even in my training up to that point. Once we started getting more specialized to where Iraq was going to be and stuff like that.
Now, in relation to the analogy, the Marine Corps are the tip of the spear for combat. Mm-hmm. What part of the tip of the spear would the Recon specifically
So we'd be out in front of the spear.
Yes.
So we would be, you would never see us in theory, swift, silent, deadly. We would be out in front, long range reconnaissance, making sure that the battlefield is prepped, everything's ready. We're very, just in my platoon, we had 6 snipers for 20 guys. So every team's running with at least 1 sniper. We have eyes on targets way out in the front, and then we're either doing, call for air, stuff like that, prepping the battlefield, making sure everything's where it's supposed to be. We did a bridge rep in Iraq where we actually made sure that a bridge could be used for an operation later, so that when the infantry rolled over, they weren't surprised that the bridge couldn't hold, the bridge was there at all. Stuff
right.
Like that.
Yeah, 100%. So the passageway was secure. You were watching it, making sure that nothing was being planted on it.
Yep.
Just like overseeing that crossing, that phase line, that element. Holy cow, that's so gnarly.
And then the other thing that we were used for, so that's like one piece. And then the other thing that I think started, then we were direct action. And so if you were, a grunt unit who you saw something or you needed something done, you would call us and we'd spin up and we'd send a platoon in to do direct action missions. CQB going in, getting a guy. So we were running those 2 kind of mission sets concurrently, where we were doing the actual recon sniper, you never saw us, or we were kicking in your front door, direct action. Yeah, we were in there getting people out, zip ties, stuff like that, taking evidence, getting the high level targets.
Damn. Kicking doors, zip ties. You're there, totally there. We're here. Mm-hmm. Not so silent, high level, level 5 attack.
We were coming on helos sometimes, or like
Holy cow.
They knew we were coming for. There was only a couple roads into Iraq, and our trucks looked like no other trucks in that theater. We looked like a band of gypsies. We are, different style, everything.
Rucksacks on the vehicles,
oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like
we looked like
everything.
We would go out for long periods of time. We didn't own we didn't have a base out there or like a fob, so we would leave Camp Fallujah prepared to be gone for weeks. So our whole we had 5 trucks for our platoon. Everything was piled on the side like gypsies. Our heavy gun was actually a 50 cal Sasser, like sniper rifle, instead of the normal Ma Deuce or something like that. So we just looked different. So they knew we were coming most of the time, which led to some empty houses by the time we got there, because the 2 roads in, we had to go slow. We had to wait for EOD some of the time, clear the road.
In the vehicles, were they right-hand drivers or left-hand drivers of those steering wheels?
So they were like normal cars.
Normal cars.
Yeah, they were normal cars. They ship them in and stuff like that.
Not like a Helix.
It was hard enough driving because the Humvees are so wide. The original Humvees are so wide, and you're on roads that are to get them out of the fields, because the fields are just super mud. They're all planted fields, so they're about 6 to 7 feet off of the fields on just like a plateau, and you only have enough room for your vehicle to maneuver. So there was times where sticking heads out windows, making sure both tires are on. The roads looked like they were designed by a child, just going with a crayon. Sometimes it was wild, and those things are so wide that there was a couple times that we would get out and just guide each other, down the road, just to make sure we didn't go over the side, stuff like that. So.
Did you dive into the history of Iraq before you were to go there, such as the kids of the Ottoman Empire who drew those dirty lines all over the map?
I sat through. I was actually the intel. I was the intel rep for my platoon as well, so I had to watch a lot of that stuff and get into the tribals and stuff like that. So for every mission set that we did, I would go and research, and I would get all the sit reps from all the units in Iraq, and I would compile them into a report. And so every time we sat down as a as a platoon, I would sit and I would give a 10-minute brief on here's what's happening. Here's, the new, what they're doing as far as how they're attacking. Here's what we're going to look for. Here's the high value targets we're looking for. And then we would go into, mission prep. Like, here's how we're going to do it. And then it was kind of like the Knights of the Round Table where, unlike, I'd say, traditional units, everyone got a say. Not everyone was listened to equally, but everyone got a say.
What they got to say.
Yeah, like, you got just like, hey, that's not a great idea. How about this idea? And it was kicked around where our platoon sergeant, Bobby Rivera, who was absolutely amazing, really did listen to us and would sit there and we would map out together as the couple of teams how we were going to do something. And then our officer would make sure that it was actionable, that, he had permission and stuff like that. But he let basically the enlisted run the show based on a framework that he thought up. Okay, this is where we have to do. Now you guys take it. Now you guys run. So it was pretty egalitarian as far as the military is concerned, where we never felt like we didn't have a mission set that wasn't just, hey, do this, go over there. And you're like, that's a stupid idea. Like, I don't want to do that.
What a smart commander, right? What a smart officer.
I was so blessed between my platoon sergeant and my commander. They were just the best pair, of course.
They sound understanding.
Oh, they were super understanding. We had a platoon that ended up being used a lot because of that, because we were shit hot, because we got the missions done. Everything we did, like, I feel like we trained a little harder and a little more than most of the other platoons, even in our company, and especially in battalion, because Bobby Rivera was like Force Team Leader of the Year at one point. He was just the super operator of super operators.
Has to be maintained.
So we hated it training because we were out there hours after everyone had gone inside. We were doing stuff no one else was doing. And then when we got to Iraq, we really did appreciate it. Like, we would roll into a house that we had to take over, and each Humvee had sandbags. We would bring the ballistic windshields of other Humvees that had been destroyed, so that every corner of the house post had 6 inches of ballistic glass you were hiding behind. But it was just like, you never think of those things. And so all of a sudden, like, it took 6 hours to set up a house, but then we had a fortress that we felt confident. Yeah. Like, if we get attacked, like, bring it on, rather than we would roll out into some of the other units, not like we would go with other National Guard units. We'd have to meet up with other Marines and stuff. And you're just like, man, like, after doing what we did, I don't think I would want to stay in this house.
No,
right. Like, yeah. So they were amazing. I didn't have enough time to go the second deployment. I was short-timed, the way the pipeline worked. And I actually extended 6 months on my contract just to go back with Bobby Rivera, because he was that good. And he was like, as a favor to me, would you come back? I was like, yep, let's do this.
Yes, you found your purpose. If it was found a guy that you'd fight for. Yep.
Gone. Sorry, no, that was hell on wheels the first time. But I felt like I owed it to him after what a great job he did with the shit we were handled. So.
Well, you're like, well, you got me through the last one, Bobby. Yeah. So, there's going to be. Did he make it back? Is he still around? To this day?
He's actually, I believe, I actually text him every once in a while. He's still, I believe, contracting for the Marine Corps, teaching still CQB for, like, now I think the Raiders, now I think, who is the JSOC, what we became in JSOC, and then also the Force Recon that they stood up, which is where.
Why would that mind go away? Right.
I mean, right. So now he has a really he said it's all the things he did always, just not deploying, which I'm sure his wife loves, because he
right. And having to probably salute those that you like and those that you don't like. But you got to salute, right? I get that. But now he's Bobby. It's like, oh, yeah, don't worry about Bobby. He's got this class. Don't worry about it. Thank you, Bobby, and to all the students and to anybody that you've educated, bro. Just, they appreciate you. We're going to give him a shout-out on this right now because I hear the love out of your voice.
I do. He actually he has stories
that watch this.
He has stories I can't tell without getting indecent. That, like, he was just a fun dude. Like, he wasn't just like a great platoon sergeant. Like, he wasn't the guy who yelled at you. He was the guy who just, like, you just wanted to do well for him. But man, we laughed so hard with him. Like, he was just a fun guy. So, like, even from his opening speech, the first time I ever met him, he's like, I only have one bad habit, and that's swearing, and that's smoking. So shut the fuck up. And, like, he just from the moment you met him, you were laughing. And then I remember when we were trying to BZO rifles, you're in blocks and you're making sure everything's 100% perfect for each shot. And he just walks up and takes 2 shots, keyholes them from 30. He's like, I'm good, and like walks off the line. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, this is the guy I want to follow. Yeah, he was amazing.
That's exactly what I'm getting out of that, and that's awesome. And if you ever want to come on here, Bobby, we got a space for you after you're done doing all what you're doing. Now, with the fun and the laugh goes, some sadness and some tears. I'm sure that was shed. You probably knew people that didn't make it back that were close to you, or
yeah, our team had like 50% casualties. Our platoon had about 25% casualties. We lost a lot of guys that first deployment when I went over when I was a boot. It was a different world than what we were told when we went over. We went over and we took over from, I think, 3rd Recon, and they're like, hey, every once in a while some boom would go off, no big deal, nothing happened. They were all smiling, leaving, high five, like great. We got there right when they decided that they were going to do true guerrilla warfare. There was a section of about 3 months towards the end where we didn't leave the wire without getting hit with an IED. Somewhere in the battalion. So for not that many, for like six to God, we probably had six platoons out running ops at one time. Someone was always getting hit with an IED. Now it wasn't always deadly. It was mostly just taking tires off, taking bumpers off, hitting something. But we were getting hit consistently every day. There was a mortar team that was operating around Fallujah that was horrible. Like they were very good at their job. They got
indiscriminate firing.
Yeah. They were in jail for being a mortar team. The Iraqi judicial system let them out after a year. And the moment they got back, we knew they were back in the AO, and they started. They shelled Camp Fallujah. They caused a lot of turmoil, and so there was never a moment when we left the wire that we weren't ready for something. We got shot at a lot, just randomly, just like random drive-bys that you just weren't expecting and stuff like that. Sniper team, we got hit by a sniper at one point. Luckily, he wasn't that great of a shot, but. So yeah, it was that first deployment was hell on wheels, and then we came back for the second deployment, and not a shot was taken, not a bomb, nothing. So they were just at that point waiting us out because they knew we would leave eventually. So that first deployment, no one was prepared for our mission set, which was we get to Iraq and we're supposed to be Sneaky Pete, we're supposed to be doing all these mission sets, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, here's this AO that you have to patrol like a normal unit, and you have to own it. And so we had to run ops in this AO that we had never done before. Knock and talks, just like presence patrols. The whole I don't remember.
Just like you see me, we're here.
Right.
Like here we are. We're a target.
Yes.
What are you going to do about it?
And
show up somewhere.
And God bless every infantry dude who does that, because I don't know how. Because our whole training set, I don't remember ever moving during daylight. We moved only in cover of night. We're doing all the things where you don't see us, and then suddenly we get over to Iraq, and it's like, hey, walk down this 1-lane road, in the middle of the day, and make sure everyone knows that everything's going to be okay. And you're just like. So it was hard that first, I would say, few months adjusting our tactics, adjusting how we were going to run operations and stuff. And we weren't getting the best of them, that's for sure. They learned how to get us better than we could get them.
Dude, that's wild. And so in Valhalla Boys, you've got multiple chapters that cover everything from like, why the book was created to the things that you're talking about in this book, right? And what was it like to have to just really? Did you write this book? Did you have someone help ghostwrite it with you?
Oh no, I wrote. So I always wanted to be a writer. That was actually one of my passions. Like I actually have another book series that has nothing to do with the Valhalla Boys. So I have another book series that I'm writing over here. So I always wanted to be a writer. My mom was a school teacher with a reading specialty. My parents were voracious readers. So it was something I always wanted to do, and. So I literally, I think there's a picture in the book where I have a notebook next to me, and I'm actually taking notes on everything that's happening. Because at that point, I thought everything was just going to be like, hey, a normal deployment, what's it like? And then things started going horribly wrong. And so a lot of those notes, I actually just found that notebook not like a month ago. And I was going through it. I actually put it down. But so it ended up becoming this ongoing like journal of what it was happening, like in quick notes and stuff like that.
Yep.
So when I got home, I had no interest in ever reading that notebook again. That just went off to the side. I actually forgot I even had it until about a month ago. And then I started having just bad PTSD. I was not sleeping every 3 to 4 nights. And then on the fifth or fourth night, I would just pass out. And it was just bad. And I was just, I didn't know. And it was funny because while I was in Iraq, while I was in the teams, everything was going well. You kind of condense it down into like a little bunker in your head and you just compartmentalize it. And then I got into civilian life, and especially where me and my wife moved to a new town. We moved across the country to a place we never lived because she got a job with Amazon, and I was unemployed at the time. And so I'm unemployed. I got nothing but time. And that nuclear waste inside your head, man, it starts leaking. And I ignored it. I'm fine. I just worked out harder. That was all I could do all day is work out and just
right.
And then it got real bad. It got bad enough that my wife was concerned. Again, I wasn't sleeping a lot, and I was having nightmares all the time.
Were you drinking at all or anything like that? Were you hitting the bottle?
No, that comes later. That's
okay.
That's
no, I just want to know because.
But at that time, it was just like I had plans to start a business. I'd been planning on starting a gym, so I had something to do while I was writing. Because I wanted to do something I loved already because I worked out a lot and
fitness.
Right. And I was like, oh, I'll start a gym and then I'll write on the side as my side hustle. And if it ever takes off, great. If not, I still enjoy it. And it was starting to affect my business where I wasn't sleeping most days and it just got bad. So I checked into the VA and I started I saw a therapist who literally saved my life. I will say that he saved my life at the time. Where he sat me down and the first words out of his mouth were, hey, I have no idea what you went through. I could never understand what you've been through, but I'd like to. And I can actually kind of compare that to when he left for a private sector job because the VA unfortunately can't hold guys versus what they can make out in the private sector.
Yeah.
When he left, I went through 2 more therapists where one of them and me almost got in a fist fight within the first session because he wanted me on drugs. He wanted, oh yeah, just take these pills, you'll be fine. And I'd been doing so good because I was basically in 2 years of therapy, I would say intensely, where for the first 6 months I was going once a week. For the next 6 months I was going, once every 2 weeks. And then I was down to once a month, I'd say for that last year. And it was good. And then I switched over and I ended up leaving therapy because of how bad one of the therapists was. And so what I ended up doing is just seeking out therapy out in town. So I actually got a private therapist who was awesome. But so then but that first therapist, the first thing he had me do was have it write down all these horrible things that had happened. He had me go through, he's like, we're going to write down all the horrible times that happened to you. And you're going to write them 100 times over the course of our therapy. And so I think one of the chapters is called the night written 100 times. And that's literally where it comes from is I have copies of that where I would just write it, and he would make me go into more detail each time and more detail. And as he did that, it kind of got less and less and less and less where I wasn't, it wasn't as strong. And so I started sleeping again. I started functioning like a normal human being again. And after about 2 years of therapy, I thought I was good. No big deal. We're over this. So I was going then once every 3 months, checking in, stuff like that. So that's how the book got started, was all the bad stories. If you read the book, all the condensed bad stories. And then I had a friend read it who's actually a book critic, book reviewer.
Right.
And she's like, there's got to be funnier stories. There's got to be something else other than these. And I was like, yeah, I have some funny stories, I think. I'll write those too. So I wrote those. And then she actually is the one who got me to submit it to a publisher. Because I had no plans on really doing anything really with it. I had thought about doing it. I had kind of self-published just to see if it would work. And I took it down. The second the first person commented on it in a way that brought me back to I was like, nope. I don't want anyone to read this. I'm done. We're done here.
You want to share the comment of what they said that made you feel that way? Do you remember it at all?
Yeah, they actually told me, like, they're like, that didn't happen. Like, you're like, it was just one of those comments that you're like, they're like, this is unbelievable. That was the comment. And I was like, all right, there's the one thing I will say about my book, like, there may be some points that people might not believe some shit, but I actually had a reunion with that team about 6 months ago, and we were telling the stories, and I made sure, I was like, did that really happen? Like, there's a scene where the medic shoves his hand down in my friend's leg, and that fucking image lives in my head. And I was like, did that happen? Am I making that? He's like, no, I'm still pissed about that. Like, so there's some things, because I'd written it down in my notebook, and I was like, did I make that up? Like, and so it was nice to actually get some confirmation that, like, those things that had lived vividly in my head were not, exaggeration, fabrication. Because, I mean, the story itself, like, there was no exaggeration needed. There was no fabrication. Like, it was crazy. Because I would say my Marine Corps career was this, like, highs of just, like, everything you ever imagined as a boy, what the military could be. And then just, like, this awful, everything that you didn't think about when you joined up. Because I think a lot of people think, and for me especially, that it's going to be you dying that you start getting worried about, or that you're afraid of, or like, oh, woe is me. Or could I kill somebody when it counts? Like, when I'm putting in that position where, it's me or him, could I do it? And you find out that is not the actual problem. The problem is watching your friends, them dying, them getting blown up, them becoming, in front of you. Not, like, I watched two of my, goosebumps. I just watched two of my friends turn into living torches and run around fields. And they both died 3 weeks later after the most horrific 3 weeks where no painkiller was touching them. And so that lives in my head full time. Like, that will never leave me. We had missions where men were killed, the enemy was killed, or, like, I almost died. And that never bothered me one sense. At no point have I given those any thought. But, man, watching your friends and the guys you start to love get hit. My team leader was hit. My best friend who I was living with at the time, he lost his leg. So, like, there's this, like, and you don't think about that when you're signing up. It's always about, it's the selfish you, because you haven't met them yet. You haven't fallen in love with them yet. And, like, you haven't become that team, because that's the one thing I will say, like, it was a blessing that my team was so tight. We were amazing team. One of my guys went on to be one of the highest teams that you can get in the U.S. military. That's where the level of he was at. That's where we were, like, we were just such a shit hot team. And so watching those guys get hit and go home in pieces wrecked me like that. And it just made me shut down and throw some walls up that they didn't come down for a very long time.
I can understand why your therapist said, I don't know what you went through, but I want to know as best I can. And, because just listening to you talk right now, and you're very animated and very eloquently spoken, and you definitely deliver everything you say, but I can't help but kind of like, your goosebump, when you said you have goosebumps, it kind of sent chills into my eyes. Yeah,
there's still moments like one of the things like you start to learn in like therapy is like there's certain trigger things. There's certain things you cannot watch, you cannot listen to. If I listen to taps, there's certain things I cannot do now without going instantaneous. My daughter, unfortunately, went to a funeral with me for one of my relatives, but I wasn't at that funeral. I was at all the guys. We went to so many, and I grabbed her and I held her in front of my chest, and she was a mess of just boogers and tears. And she, to this day, definitely will never let me forget that. But she had never seen that side of me, ever. She has only known me as dad, and I keep those things very separate. Like, she doesn't like, so there's actually things that I will talk about in the future when she's old enough to understand that it happened to me and that I've done. That right now I just kind of breezed over, and you're like, oh, yeah, it was bad. But that was the first time she ever got to see, like, holy shit, dad broke down completely. Like, and she's never seen that before. And so it's these weird things that you don't think about coming, or you're watching a movie and a character you love, something happens to them, and I'm a mess. I'm like, that's like the day. It's like, turn it off, go in bed. Like my wife will rub my head for a while. Like, and so it's not the things I guess you would think of that like sets you off or makes you think about all your friends and stuff. But like, it's just all these random like instances.
It can be something innocent and sweet that just reminds you of something innocent and sweet about them, which reminds you about what they dealt with.
The little train goes and you're crying suddenly, and you're just remembering these things that like, God, you wish you could get out of your head, but then they're also the things that made you who you are, and you know, like because people always ask me, they're like, given how bad it was, would you ever go back in time and change it? And it's like I can't say that, like I can't, like it was bad. But man, the guys I met, you know, where I ended up and how it all worked out, like I love my life now. I have the best wife, I have the best daughter. Like my life is amazing. And it's like that, if that was the price for this, like I'll pay it again. Like it just sucked at the time. Like but even then, like you were so numb to it. Like we were going to funerals in Iraq between mission sets. So it'd be like, get back from a mission, shower, go to a funeral of a friend, get back in the trucks, go back out on mission. And you were just like, yup, this is what we're doing now. This is like how we're doing it.
So your Fallen would have basically two farewells. One with you guys at your camp, as much dignity as you could possibly muster.
Oh, it was actually, they have a chapel in Camp Fallujah. Like it was, I'd say it was a pretty common occurrence, like especially where we were when we were. So like it was beautiful. They had it was a beautiful ceremony, but it was weird because you're sitting there between things that you have to go back out. You know, in 6 hours you're headed back out for another mission set, and there you are trying to keep it all together. And that's kind of like the Valhalla boys thing. And that's what we always told us, you know, like, oh, they're going to Valhalla, man. They died a good death. They died the warrior death. You know, let's go out. Let's keep going and get it, guys. And that's, you got to find a way to tell yourself to keep going.
And so that's Valhalla Boys. That's where you got it from, is because, you know, you just wanted to attribute it to your buddies that went out in battle.
Yeah. So actually we had, so we had different phases of Recon. So I went through, which in a very cool time that I will say, that where Recon did their own training. So when I made Recon, when I passed the INDOC, I was given to the Reconnaissance 2nd Battalion for in-house training till I went to the schoolhouse proper. Now I think it's like you stay in infantry school, which is a very formalized school. But this is back when, like, there was just operators teaching us every day. I had a Staff Sergeant Johnson, who's Cheshire in the book. He did a hell of a job getting us prepared for the schoolhouse, but it was completely up to them what we were going to do. Operators teaching operators. So
makes sense.
Yeah,
doesn't that make sense?
Right. It was wonderful. But it was its own hell on wheels because they were trying to get some attrition going and make sure,
of course,
only the good guys went. But so it was its own little bubble where we never got outside of that mission set. We were always with the same guys.
It reminds me of Top Gun, the scene, if you've seen Top Gun, where they're talking about Maverick. They're like, would you fly with him?
Oh, yeah.
They're training him, you know?
And it's funny because Generation Kill, the book and movie, or the show, those guys, a lot of those guys were my instructors at the schoolhouse. Like, you're like, oh, cool. And you get there, you're like, oh, shit. Like, this is real deal, guys. Like, this is who we're dealing with. Because Recon does a really good job, or did, again, I don't know about now, of rolling back their best to teach or be platoon sergeants for the next crop. And so, like, there was guys at my schoolhouse that, they're portrayed in Generation Kill as, and again, we see both sides of them, the laughing, fun side.
Yes.
Yes. But, like, I mean, stone cold killers. Like, just the hardest men you've ever met moving forward. And so it was wild in that respect.
That's wild, and I've hung out with Rudy a few times, who was in Generation Kill, and so, I mean, he's the guy, he's seen it, he's running in full gear, gas masks, ripped up muscles, that's you guys, essentially. Mm-hmm. He's essentially saying, this is what we are. Everyone's looking at him like, why is he running with a gas mask on? Like, what does he know that we don't know? Mm-hmm. right? And your instructors are like, we know something that you don't know. That's why I think, and I'm going to loosely kind of go on my own recollection, is that when 9/11 happened and all of a sudden we're sent to war, okay, Iraq kicks off, I believe they re-enlisted some old gunnies to come into the Marine Corps in their 60s and 70s who had been in Vietnam or in firefights to give instructions.
Oh, I totally.
No
one can give you
School
or
of
tell
Infantry.
you what it's like if they haven't been there. And so that's why, again, like with like Gunny Riv or some of the other, like all our company platoon sergeants were all in force recon together in teams. So this is like their team just broke up and then became our platoon sergeants. And they would tell us while we're in the kill house practicing all these stories and like how it went down and what to expect. And so like you're getting it firsthand from guys who literally 2 years before, are running all these ops. And now they're just being pulled because now they're starting to get to a rank where they feel like they need to be teaching, which none of them liked, by the way.
Right. They're like, just demote me and send me off.
I know for a fact Gunny Riv, when I first met him, was actively trying to fuck his own career to stay in the teams because he did not want to be a platoon sergeant and teach. He was shit hot in the teams, and it's like you're good at something, and like you want to just keep doing that thing. And I know it really broke his heart to end up getting us, but he saved lives. Like he really made the next generation, and I hope he's super proud of some of the guys he trained and created, because they went on to be almost even better than him in some respects. Like I think I call him Clark in the book. Clark goes on to the highest teams in the U.S. military, the shit in Quantico that no one's allowed to talk about, and so he did so much coming from those scenarios where he's telling us like a year ago I was in Africa and we were doing this, and you're just like, okay, so this is possible. This is not just like a drill, where I think some of the guys, some of the training like in School of Infantry, I know for a fact they take the top guy and sometimes the bottom guy. Like they want you to learn from him, but they don't know where to put this shithead. So you get this amalgamation of instructors, and you can tell the ones who were amazing and like shit hot, and then you can kind of tell the shitbags who are just there to be put somewhere because they don't want them in the unit anymore. Which would lucky, because I don't feel we had a lot of that. Every guy I learned from had been there, had done that, was like a god in their own right. That it was amazing. Like I said, like most of the generation kill was our schoolhouse instructors.
That's wild.
It was very wild. And then it was even funnier because one of the guys I went to the schoolhouse with, who was from the West Coast, he ended up getting like the officer ended up being his officer, Iceman, and some like. So he got some of these guys as like his like. Coker was one of my best friends, platoon sergeants, stuff like that, where you're just like, holy shit, man! Like this is the best teaching the best on the way down. So it was wild, but it was so awesome to be able to sit and listen to these stories. One of my favorite memories is we had a master guns who we were on a company op that was just awful. It was training. It wasn't like we weren't in Iraq yet. We were in, I think, 29 Palms in the desert, just doing nothing. And he sat for 3 hours just telling stories about like the heyday in the 70s and 80s when he was operating, and like he had he had so many stories. But the thing that stuck with me that I think was the funniest is he's like, oh, all right. He finishes the story. He's like, how old do you boys think I am? We're like, oh shit, like 65. Yeah. He's like, I'm 42. He's like, get out while you can. I just remember I was like, wow, like this life was like. It was nuts, but listening to those stories and hearing all that stuff, like it was so important. And to wrap that back into what you asked about the book about Valhalla Boys, we actually had our instructor staff when I was in this, not the schoolhouse, but the holding tank, who would sit us down and talk about Valhalla. We would actually talk about Norse mythology and the whole warrior ethos, and like because a lot of us like didn't come from religious households. Like my parents were fucking hippies, like
sure.
Parents we had no organized religion. We had the golden rule.
They're like, find your own God.
Right. We had the golden rule. Treat others as you treat them. That was on our refrigerator, but that was it. And so you get there and, you have some guys who are very religious and they have their, and so for the rest of us, it was like, what are we going to cling to when it gets bad? What are we going to think about when it gets bad? And so we actually had a great instructor who really was into that whole thing. And so he literally really talked us through Valhalla and the whole idea of it, and just warrior cultures. We talked about samurai. We talked about, Spartans and stuff like that. So like we got a little sampling of like other warrior cultures of the elites and what they thought and what they believed. And so I actually really loved and gravitated towards the whole idea of Valhalla, especially when we started losing guys, because it was like, okay, well, they've gone to someplace better. They've earned their right at someplace better. Because again, I had no religious teaching, so it gave me something to believe in at the time and kind of like, really rally around when things got bad. That like, worst case, we're going to Valhalla, boys. Like this is, we're not going to die in our bed, but here we go.
Right. And like, I know like in the Army, Special Forces, Green Berets, one of their 5 requirements is a faith. They have to have a faith, to do the job, to be even given the Green Beret.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Like, because
they're like, we don't care what it is.
Right. Just believe in it.
But it's got to be
right.
Jedi.
Yeah.
Valhalla.
Yeah, something. Because you need that thing to rally around. And again, everyone says, oh, I don't need anything, until those bad things start happening, and all of a sudden your friends are going. And again, it's never about you, or I'd like to think it's not never about you, but it's all the things you're watching happening around you that you're just like you cannot cope at the same time, and then also go do the mission. Like when you watch your friends blow up and they're like, hey, you got to keep going. You can't stop to help them. You've got to keep the mission going. And you're like, okay, here we go. And so it helps to have that backing of just a mantra. Just something to tell yourself, like they're going to Valhalla. Let's keep moving. Like they're going to a better.
You were willing to go to Valhalla for your friends. You were willing to do that, right?
Yeah, there is a moment where, and I think that's.
So what I want to say is like they were willing to go to Valhalla. For you.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so just like you were willing to do the same, like you said earlier in our conversations, Rad, it's like, I didn't really care about if I died, if it was me. It's like, it's more about my buddies, right? But your friends that did pass and perish, they're thinking the same thing. So they were willing to do that, to make sure you came home, right? Or whoever else came home. I just want to point that out, Valhalla boys, right? That's what's up, dude. So tough. It's tough.
It was something. So, but yeah, it was. So I tying it back to the whole book and stuff. So I got back. I went through more of my pipeline after the first deployment. We went back for a second time, and then nothing happened, which almost was worse because we were expecting
coiled up,
and it was like your butthole was just clenched for 7 months, and all the new guys are clamoring like, "Oh, when are we going to see action?" It's like you don't careful what you wish for, and I guess that was the lesson for that, because I think when I was trying to join, that's what I wanted to find out, like, could I go through this? Could I go through these different scenarios, and how would I react? Because even within my unit, I remember different guys react in different ways. Like my team, like they were psychotic. Like they were literally like, they were so like, didn't give a shit right at the enemy, throwing rounds down range. And then there were even some guys in our unit like would duck down and like, just like you get to see a lot about who you are at that moment. And I think most of my life was like questioning that, like, how would I react when the shit starts happening and stuff like that? And so like, and then it starts happening and you're like, okay, I found out. Okay. All right. Like, I'm good. And then, so that, and that's kind of like the catch-22 of the military, is you just have to go. If you have that burning question, there's no other place you're going to find out those answers. But careful, like you might find out more than you wanted to know in the end. Like that, it might just not stop for a little bit.
It might not be what you think the romance is.
Yeah.
That, like, there's romance. Everybody sees a sniper. It's a long range shot. It's always like from hidden between the rocks, and no one sees it. You're like, yeah, no. You're like,
yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like what you think is, I say, child. What you believe in, child, when you're playing War in the Woods, and then the reality of it. Like, I remember seeing Saving Private Ryan, and I think that was the first time, that opening scene, where I was like, maybe this is not as glorious as I thought. It didn't stop me from joining, because I think you still have to find out for yourself. but that was the first time I think my eyes were like a little more open to the possibility of how bad it could get.
Yeah, that was a pretty good depiction of storming the beach, and the helmet putting on his head in the water and the red water flushing his face, with blood from his troops. That he, and Alpha 1 say again, the beach is not clear, over, bring up the Bangalores, bro. It's like, dang, dude, what a crazy life you've been through as a reconnaissance sniper, right? Is your logo the spade? No, that's first Recon, right? Are you guys all the spade? The Recon teams, like there's a spade painted on the building at Pendleton where they are at.
So we just had the skull with the 3 holes in it. That was our
that's your logo.
Island Deadly. Yep. So I mean, so that's kind of the common one of all of them. I actually have some cool photos I found of like Recon during Vietnam with the skull with the 3 holes and stuff. So it's like the old stuff. So it changed a lot from that. I think everyone has specifically for their battalion. There is specific ones, but for the most part, it's just the skull with the three holes in it,
which signify swift,
silent,
deadly, and silent. I see.
Yep. And then there's usually the paddle. So most guys have the jack somewhere on them. So I have a jack right here that I made myself, depending on what I got. So it has a little sniper scope. It has my breacher stuff. I got wings. I got a paddle, but I did not get my dive bubble. So I don't have the dive thing. So
yeah, that's the helmet with the snorkels going around both sides of its mouth. Yep. Yeah, the rebreather.
Yeah, so I went to sniper school instead of that. Though that was my choice, given the time frame I could go. Was
you guys.
No, I never wanted
my dad was jealous. He never got that either.
No.
Yeah, he never got that. He's like, I'm a Green Beret, but I'm not a combat diving Green Beret. I'm like, there's better Green Berets than Green Berets, as a young man. He always wanted that dive badge though, but he loved to dive.
No, I had a Master Guns who had the Ranger tab, and I was doing that, so I signed up for Ranger school, and I went jump. It was supposed to go jump Ranger sniper, but they ended up kanking my Ranger slot right at the So we had the option as a Recon to go to any school we wanted to, so long as we could justify it in some way of
You're like, I'll take a Ranger tab, dude.
That sounds great. I heard that's really hard. Let's do that.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah,
I just thought, but we ended up in a conversation, and from what I understand, he's like, there is no harder gut check than Ranger school. He's like, you want to find out about yourself? He's like, that is you at your lowest. It's not the hardest in the, you're not going to swim, you're not going to do anything. He's like, but you want to see the toughest, most low you can get. There's that school for you. He's like, it is just a suck fest. And I was like, all right, sign me up. Let's go.
Yeah, let's see. I'll prove that to me. Let me go find that out.
Well, I think it's funny you should say that, because I think one of the things, because it was my unit was wild as far as I had more college graduates in my unit who were in an enlisted unit than I could possibly imagine, for that reason, which is if you go to college and I actually tried to sign up for the officer program right when I got out of college, and they're like, oh, it's going to be a year wait. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go enlist then. He's like, are you kidding me? I was like, no, I'm not waiting. And that was super common. And it was that whole, yeah, right. And it was like, well, we're all going to go see what the next step is. So when I signed up, I never was expecting to be Recon. That was not my plan. I didn't even know Recon existed, to be honest. I was going 0311, infantry, straight up.
Infantry.
Yeah, let's do it. Because that's how I imagined all Marines. Storm the beach, infantry. And so when I signed up at the station, he's like, oh, you don't want to do that. We have plenty of infantry. Do this. You're a smart kid. You have college. Do this. And I was like, I'm going 0311 or I'm not going. That's how it's going to be. And he rented and I sent. And then while I was at infantry school is where I first heard about Recon and got our first speech about it and stuff like that, which was amazing. It was probably my favorite speech ever. So you're a
cardio guy then. You can run. Then you got to be a runner to be Recon, right? You got to run. You got to be able to run fast too, right?
Yes. I wasn't at the time. I was more of a bodybuilder. And then real fast you learn. I was never the fastest runner. We had kids running 16:33 miles, crazy shit. I was a little heavier set going in than I think I would ever be. I was probably almost 200 pounds going in I was pretty muscular. I was a bodybuilder in college and I really kind of weightlifted. And then when I got out of boot camp, I was 155 of just,
oh, wow.
I looked like the vulture from the old Bugs Bunny cartoons, just an Adam's apple. And that was about it. And so we we learned real quick. I remember the first day that I got it, because like you go through infantry school and boot camp, and it's not a whole lot of running. You could run shitty and still make it. The first day of recon, the not schoolhouse, but the holding tank. I just remember Staff Sergeant Johnson got down there and he took us for a 6-mile fucking run that almost all of us didn't make. Like it was incredible, and it was like, this is going to be every day for the rest of your holding tank. We are going to do shit like this every day. And so really fast, you learned you don't want muscle, you don't want extra weight. You're going to stay. So I stayed at about $175. So like down from like 205. I've stayed at about 175 pounds my entire recon career. I could do the 20 pull-ups, no problem. Like we were doing 25 and 30 in Iraq, no problem. We were practicing. Like we could do, yeah, we were built for long range. At my best, I was carrying 185 pounds of gear on most mission sets my second time out, because I had the 50 cal Sasser, which is in itself about 30 pounds, and then every mag is another 10 pounds.
Right.
And so
fully loaded.
The pictures in the book, like you can see, like it's sticking up. I had to buy a special ruck for it. So the ruck actually came to about my ear height. And then you just see these two things go further because it was broken down into two pieces. So, but with my ruck, and then I had a underslung 40 mic grenade launcher on my M4, and then all those red flares, 40 mic. So we weighed all my shit at one point, and I was humping out 185 pounds, across the desert.
Another one of you.
Yes, right. And so that's what you realize you have to be good at is not. We had guys who were, big and muscular, of course, but like for the most part, if you like Rudy and like they're muscular, but they're like shredded, like just like they're
lean.
Right, you're just lean, and you're trying to go as far as you can. So when I got out, actually, what I found I was good at, and I had never liked running whatsoever, is I started doing endurance stuff like Xterra racing, triathlons, marathons. I did an Ironman on a dare, and I was good at it. Because that's what.
Of course you did, and of course you were.
Well, it went horribly wrong on the bike because I never biked.
Of course
before.
It did.
Yeah, but that's what we were good at. Is you take someone and you're just like, hey, go that way for as long as you can. Okay. Like I remember, like a lot of the fun stuff in the schoolhouse that I enjoyed. That was we did these 50-pound ruck runs where they would just take off through sand dunes and through the woods and stuff at 3 a.m, and it was really and you were alone. Within 5 minutes, you couldn't see another person. We were strung out that bad with a rabbit way ahead of us with just a chem light on their back. And it was just you versus you, going as long as you could. And that's what you found is it was all about consistency, just being able to put out 90% effort endlessly. It was very rarely did the guy never need to be super strong. But, man,
right.
You needed to be gone. It's almost like if you ever get
a donkey.
Yeah, if you ever
got to be a donkey, you just got to keep going.
I remember when I went to jump school, watching the Rangers train. I forgot why I was up. I think I was coming back from Libo or something. But watching the Rangers at 4 a.m. with the huge rocks and the glow tail, just in a little train of dudes just running with an ungodly amount of weight. And I had a friend who ended up making it. He said, that's what our training is. Lots of weight, long distances, because that's what we do.
Let me bring my dad back into this. When I was a younger kid, like 10, 12, and he'd be like, let's go. He would get his ruck and put it on, and I'd get my bike, and we would literally go do a 6-mile ruck run around Hill Air Force Base here in Layton, Utah. And I remember one time, it was early in the morning. Let's see, what time was it? It's like either dawn or dusk. It was dark. And these guys rolled up next to us as we're running up the hill towards Hill Air Force Base. And I'm riding my bike, and my dad's rucking. Okay, and he's running and he's rucking. He's got 60 pounds or so in his ruck. He always loaded it up with cinder blocks and whatnot. And and he's just going. And they're like, "Hey, you guys need to ride onto the base?" And my dad's like, "Nope, we're good." Nope. And he was just like, and I was like, "Dad, we're not even going on the base. We're going around the front of the flight line and then another 3 miles back home, right?" We'd already made the first 3-mile run. And he's like, "Yep." And I was like, "Okay." And ever since then, I always wondered, how come no one else wore a green beret at military bases when I was younger? I was like, why doesn't everybody else have a beret? How come how come they have trucker hats? What are they wearing, Dad?
Hard shit turn. I remember one of my favorite memories is out of my infantry class, it was me and my friend Deshane we had actually made the indoc. So we knew we were going on to recon, but we still had to finish out infantry training. And one of the things is like a 20K ruck. and you have a gear list. So we fill our rucks, and then, young boys that we were, challenging each other, we each found rocks. Yeah, and we kept putting in rocks. And so we threw rocks on our rucks, and we did the whole ruck. When we got back to our base, we were getting yelled at for something. And our first sergeant, it was just a machine. This huge guy started kicking people's rucks. And he kicked this one kid, and it just floats. And he's like, everyone dump out your rucks right fucking now. So everyone's dumping out rucks, and they have pillows, blankets. They didn't do the gear list. Bro. And they got to me, and me and Deshane were squad leaders at the time. And I just remember, we're looking at each other, and we dumped it out, and there's a whole gear list. And then Deshane had this rock that, good God, it was so big. And our first sergeant was just like, you two go back in the barracks. You don't need to be a part of this. And just screamed at the rest of them. And that's what, but again, that's the personality type that it attracts is, where's the line? Where is that thing that I'm going to say I can't do it anymore? I had a friend go through the Raiders.
Dude, that's wild.
He's in the Raiders right now, and he told me a story about doing their in-dock, and he was climbing the rope, and the guy's like, climb the rope, and he did, climbed it again, and by the fifth time, his hands are getting bloody, and he couldn't make it, and he drops back down. The guy's like, climb it again, tries again. He did this for 14 times, and he the last time he's barely making it 2 feet, but every time the guy asked, he's trying to do the rope again. Never once said no. Never once gave him flack. He was like,
my hands.
Right. He's like, Roger that. Tried to climb again. The guy's like, all right, you're good. Move on. Because that's the guy you want on the team, is the indomitable. You don't necessarily need the most athletic, the most this, the most. You want the guy who will never say quit. Will never ever give up. We had this one kid that we actually brought on who he looked like an Oompa Loompa. Is the best way I can describe it. He would never be the guy that you would pick out of a lineup and be like, that's the guy I want on my team. He ended up being one of the best operators in the world. Legitimately, never stopped smiling, never not had a joke. He never went anything but one speed. You could load him with 1,000 pounds, same speed. He'd never go faster, but he would never go slower. And he was just that guy. He was indomitable. He would never quit, and he always had a joke and a laugh when you needed it. And you're just like, this is the guy you want. A lot of the guys who looked good going into the in-dock and who ran perfect PFTs and stuff, second it got hard, they crumbled. They folded. They didn't know what it was to fail and then be asked to move on. We'll keep going.
Oh, yeah, growing up with Dad, and his teams, the guys were just a collage of different sizes. I remember Kim, he was probably 5'4", and he was an Asian dude and fast and just 5'4". Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to be 6'4" like me and 270 muscles. In fact, my dad was saying sometimes those guys just don't make it. They don't have the stamina.
My favorite part about, we just watched a movie about I believe the SAS. It's a Guy Ritchie film just came out. I forgot what it's called with
the Gentlemanly
Ministry of Gentlemanly Warfare. And there's you're seeing the guys and you're like, oh, they're huge, they're muscular. And then they show the actual SAS guys at the end, and they all look like pencil pushers. They're these thin, gaunt, glasses, and you're just like, that is when we actually got to go over to Delta at one point to Bobby Rivera had friends over there, so we were asking for missions. Hey, can we come with you? Hey, can we do anything for you guys? Do you have anything for us? But I remember just meeting some of these guys, and they were just wildly not what the movies had portrayed, where it's not Jesse Ventura, all hopped up on steroids. They were all just these little dudes who were just like beards and 140 pounds. You're just like, that's not exactly what I thought, but now it makes total sense.
One of those Delta boys I know who was hunting Bin Laden through Tora Bora, his nickname's Hobbit.
Yeah.
I want you to know because he fits that name.
Yeah.
He's a smaller dude.
And it's a personality type. It has nothing to do with physicality. It's just that who's never going to not quit.
Right. And my buddy who went through Marine Corps training, the Army didn't want him because he was colorblind. He just wanted to be like military police in the Army, something so bad. He went to the Army. They said no. And he went to the Marine Corps. And they said, we'll take you. And they sent him to SOI. He's 5'2". I have a big backpack at my combat store that I own. And there's a photo of him in it, peeking out, like my backpack troll that I'm going to throw across the zombie yard. It's like, he's full on 0311. He sent me a picture from basic or boot camp where he's got his whole ruck on his back and he's looking in a mirror and it's almost bigger than he is, and he went up the Reaper and got his Eagle Globe and anchor and was able to put one foot in front of the other foot, in front of the other foot, in front of the other foot. He didn't run up it. He just put a foot in front of another foot, and that's where I get that donkey analogy from. Yeah. When you see donkeys with all that gear on them and they're still just going up the mountain, just walking one step. They might slip on a step, but they're still going up the step. Donkey thighs, bro. That's what I train myself. I go to the gym just about every day, and I'm going to bring this around to your gym. I go boxing, right? So I box here in Salt Lake, and I'm an announcer in the ring. I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, out of the blue corner comes, Brennan, with Valhalla boys. And so I love that you have a gym, right? So you've transitioned now into an author, okay, totally awesome. But you're also an entrepreneur, and you have, it seems like, the same wife that was with you during your enlistment. Were you guys married together?
So it's not the same wife.
Okay. That's okay.
We were one of the other nicknames for second divorce Recon. It happens. The deployments didn't really go well for everybody. A lot of guys came back to divorce papers and stuff like that. But regardless, so like we had our problems. We broke up. We share a daughter together, so she's my kid's biological. I remarried to an incredible woman, so I have 2 wives. But in the between, I started a gym. I got back to, so I live in Northeastern Pennsylvania, like Scranton. If you ever watch The Office, that's where we are. Yeah, so we're there. And I didn't know what I wanted.
Lancaster.
Yeah. So that's a little south, but so I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I just wanted it to be something that I could feel meaningful about. So I had my writing kind of as a hustle, but so I taught classes. So it wasn't a gym where you just go in and you work out. It was class-based. So we had 9 classes a day starting at 6
Love it.
Yeah. And so every day I was a coach. So I would go in, I'd bring people in, I would start, soup to nuts, how to do fitness, that kind of stuff. And then we got huge. We actually, so sad note to the story, our neighbor just broke through our wall and shut our gym down and blasted us. So that sucks. But so we were operating for about 50. Yeah, it's its own horrible story.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not as upset as I think people thought I'd be, because I was actually secretly in the process of selling it, because I feel like that stage of my life was kind of winding down. My daughter's 10. She still wants to hang out with me. So it's like, while the getting's good, I should so I was actually going to transition into selling it and then just coaching a little, halftime. And then my wife has an incredible job. And so I was going to take a little time back and just write more. And so they just really just sped up my writing career as far as my other book series and stuff like that. But so every day I get to go into this gym and, meet these new people from the first time who were scared and lead them through because I had a bad fitness journey. I was a little fat kid. Believe it or not, because everyone sees pictures of me from high school. I was a theater geek. I was overweight, long hair down to my shoulders. I never
a hippie kid
wanted to go to the military, but it never clicked. And so now when I meet people from my past, I'm like, what happened? I was I don't know. I realized I had to get in shape. Because I had a freshman class in college where one of my professors called me out. He's like, if you keep half-assing your entire life, you're gonna be flipping burgers for your fucking life. And that was my epiphany moment, where I think the next day I started at the gym at 5 a.m. Would go for 3 hours a day. I went from 225 pounds down to about 165, then back up to about 205 of meat, really hitting it hard and stuff like that. And so for me, that was a huge turning point in my life of really kind of taking control. Because I was that kind of overweight, just sarcastic little shithead you don't want in your class probably, or at your job. And so it really turned me onto a good path. And then the military put me on an even better path. And so I feel like it prepared me. So I wanted to share that journey with other people, which I love. For 15 years, I cannot imagine a better job where I could make my own schedule as my boss, so like
Right.
I saw my child, I think more than any parent who's not a stay-at-home parent. If you have a full-time job, I made sure I saw my kid more than anybody else in the world. And so she actually didn't think I had a job for a while because I would work when she was either at school or at daycare or like whatever. And then like I would have 5 days just.
You're always around. You're always available. It's like, oh, you want me to be the coach? You want me to help you keep score? You want me to help you throw the ball?
Exactly.
It's like,
so we have a great relationship because of that. And then it really just let me have the quality of life where like I got to set my own schedule so I could actually have time to write and time to do this and time to that. And like, I think, and I was actually just talking with another Marine who owns a business, and there's something about military people coming out that I think make really good entrepreneurs. Because one, we're just cocky as fuck. You believe in yourself. You're like, this isn't going to fail. I'm going to do this. Like, and so, but then also logistically, like I knew how to do, and if it was all on me. If it fails, it's on me. I'm just going to work harder. And so you're going to take that work ethic from over here, where we got me into special operations, and I ended up having one of the biggest gyms on the East Coast for what I did, and like I had tons of members. Everything was going really well. I had employees that I paid ridiculous wages to. Like I got to do all the things that I'd ever want to do, really stress free, until the wall break, which was its own little personal hell, but. Until that time, like it was the best 15 years I could possibly imagine as a job, especially coming out of the military where you have no say to you're on your own.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to know what it's like to not have say, to now you have your own say. Right. You're like, I'm going to take full advantage of this. I'm going to, make the most out of myself with my say. Yeah. And the number one thing that makes an entrepreneur is being jobless.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I get something to eat today? How am I going to hustle? And
I think for me, like I was always going to go to the gym. I knew that. Like I was always going to work out. So I was like, well, now I don't have to pay for a gym membership. Now I get to build it exactly how I want. Like, and now I have access 24/7 to an awesome space. So like, it all just made sense to me. And until almost, I would say through high school, I was planning on being, when I got out of the military, I was planning on being a school teacher. And my mom talked me out of it because she was a school teacher. And she's like, I love you to death, but I don't think you're going to be able to handle the parents of these kids without trouble. Like, because she got out right as I was going into the military and stuff. She retired. And she was right. I think the state of parents in teaching right now is not where, I don't think I could handle it, but I still wanted to teach. So I was like, well, what can I do that I can teach and still do the things I love? And so it worked really, really well for me. I really enjoyed my job 100%. Like I came every day to the gym really just happy, really just pleased with everything that went.
It's your pill. You know how they wanted to give you a pill at therapy? They're like, take these things. We have a mantra here at SOFREP Radio, which is thrills before pills. So if you can go outside, if you can go for a hike in your local area, go to the park, walk around your own little community that if you live in an apartment complex, just go outside.
What I mean, my best friends, Kyle, we talk about squat therapy all the time. Having a bad day,
therapy.
Go squat therapy, baby. Like
that was yesterday for me, bro.
Yeah, put some weight up, and all of a sudden, like people don't understand, like just having momentum in your life and having that like thing where you can look and be like, man, that was pretty good. Like, and just having that forward momentum, like it really does help. Like you could be having the shittiest day, you put some weight up, you run fast, you do something where you feel like you did something proactive. Man, that's the best thing in the world as far as like keeping it out.
Well, it's great because, like I said, I took on this mantra of like I gotta go to the gym before the doctor tells me I gotta go to the gym. I don't want to take a pill till I go to the gym. All these types of things. So for the last 2 years, I've just been really religious. I've got 400 days in the gym in the last 2 years. I joined June of 2023, and this June will be 2 years. So I've almost got 400 days in of boxing, right? And my wife totally now loves to work out, wants to always hit the gym.
That's fantastic.
My son, he's like, Dad, I take gym at class, he's in weightlifting in high school. So now we got him a Dimpledale rec pass here where I live. And I go with him and he's like, no, hold it like this. And I'm like, oh, all right, I'll hold the bar just right. Dad's laying down on the bench trying to lift at least 235 plates in a bar. Okay, here we go. I'm not trying to go for broke. Yeah. I'm just trying to, be a part of what he wants. And I see him lift, and he's like, I'm putting more plates on. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm putting 245s on both sides. I'm going to try to do that. And then he goes over and he does like, the deadlift where he lifts it up. And he's like, you want to put your hand this way and this way on the bar, Dad? And I'm like, thank you, son.
Yeah, see, I totally agree. Like I was actually like I was really into punk rock when I was younger. Henry Rollins
still are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Oh god, yeah. But like Henry Rollins talks about this. If you're ever in the Black Flag and stuff like that. But like,
oh, of course,
Henry Rollins was a huge proponent. And he, like as a kid, like there's this jack dude jumping around on stage singing the songs I love. But then he's talking about like, be active, be physical, man. Like you got one body, you got one life. Like go do something. And so that made a huge difference for me as a kid when I finally started in on it. And I was like, man, I can't believe I've been missing this. Because my brother was the star athlete, all through high school, captain of everything. Sure. So I was like, nope, not doing that. Like, I'm going to go my own way. And then I realized I was like, I probably should have done that.
You're like, I'm going to go skate.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to punk rock.
Skate theater and like punk rock. Yep. Oh, yeah. Alt stuff, 100%.
And then the recruiter's like, come here, skater boy.
Well, by that point, I had gotten into college. I dropped my baby fat. I had shaved my head. Like, I went, like, full tilt, like, not Fight Club, but, like, I totally, like, flipped my life around where then all of a sudden I was working out 3 hours a day. I looked the part, like, going in. Too top heavy, found that out real quick as far as like.
I see. Just too broad, like
right, like a
cobra.
Right. You think bench press is the ultimate. You think all this stuff is the ultimate. Like, and then you go to do a pull up and you have to pull all that weight up. And they're like, 20 is the gold standard. And you're like, oh, I totally did this all wrong. So you start back over, get really good at pull ups.
Yeah, I'm constantly working on my thighs, because when you're punching, it's all about the hips, you're like throwing it in there. So when you say squat party, I'm thinking probably different squat party. We're doing like at least 100 squat thrusts, or squat jumps, like depending on, whatever the coach says, of course. But, oh yeah, man, you're great. I hope Valhalla boys can get some traction, maybe even to become, not to continuously give you PTSD, but like a Netflix series or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, so let's go back for a second because you asked me a question way back that I kind of deferred, and it was like, when did you start drinking? Right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's up to you to say so.
No. Well, we'll talk about this. So, I had put that chapter away. I had really just kind of put that aside. I had never really thought about it. If it wasn't for my friend, the book reviewer, shout out to MJ, I never would have really thought about it again. I actually didn't think about doing anything with it. And it got picked up first try. Like, I've tried to publish my fiction books, and it's fucking terrible, right? Trying to get an agent, it's very hard, very flooded market. So I was like, nothing's going to come of it. She only had me apply to one company, go to this publisher, fill out the thing, you'll get in no problem. I was like, there's no way. So they ask for, I write out the thing. They're like, hey, send us one chapter. So I sent them the night written 100 times.
Yeah.
Within 3 days, I want the whole manuscript. It's like, great. Wow. All right. Give her the manuscript. 2 weeks later, you have a book deal. Oh my God, this is amazing. And that's when the trouble started. Because now I have to fine-tooth comb this book over and over and over and over. I must have read that book fucking 7 times. Yeah. And after putting it away for 10 years and kind of like, compacting everything, and I knew what to avoid and stuff, it was like, if there was a trigger to avoid, it was probably reading this book that many times.
Yeah.
I can tell you, we'll not get into detail, but that was probably the worst. Those 6 months leading up to the book getting published were probably the worst I had since my getting out. So 12 years had passed, and I thought, oh, I'm good. I can handle this. And my parents were actually very like, are you sure this is the way you want to go?
Right.
And as a wannabe author, I would have sold my soul to the devil for a book deal. So it was like, I don't care what it is. Like, sure, whatever you want. Like, let's do this. And then we started getting into editing, and that is when I started abusing, we'll say. It got bad.
Yeah.
It got really bad. And then it got worse. There was a moment that I'm still glad to be married. We'll say that.
Yeah.
It got so bad that my wife won't even read this book. Will not do it. Like now. She's like, I fucking hate this book. This book is everything that because like she lived through the Us now, and I was like, it's a good book, and she's like, I don't care. Like, I watched what it did to you for it ate you alive. Like, and so it's funny because like we do these kind of things, and that's why I remember I asked you specifically, like, hey, what are the questions you were going to ask? Because I got asked by another interviewer a very
direct questions,
point blank to the question, and I froze, and I was like, I don't know what to do right now, and I just said, next question, because like I couldn't go back there, and so for me, like, I love these interviews. Like stuff like that, but like I won't get right, and I won't get into detail about.
I didn't want to get into.
I know.
I got gut punch questions, bro. You want to talk gut punch? You know I'm holding back. Listen, I'm gonna say right now, it's in the book.
It sends me off the deep end, and for 6 months, my wife couldn't cope because I am saying I'm fine. And I did go back to therapy. I checked in. I started going back once a week. And even she was like, you're not fine. Like, you need to stop. But I'd already signed. The deal was made. And so, like, I think the best day for me was when the book finally came out. And I never had to look at it again. It was like, go, run free. And so they're actually talking about audio rights now for the book, which would be huge. And I want no part, because someone's like, oh, you should read it. I was like, absolutely.
You're like, no.
There's no way that I will read this book out loud ever. Like, there's no point. Like, even if they asked me to and paid me, I still wouldn't do it. And if
there's a lot of folks like you that don't want that. They that's why there is actor readers that can come in and read the book.
Right. And so like, I would love, I guess for me, I would love for this book to give me some financial security, so help me, like, but as far as like I never wanted to be famous for this. I never wanted to be like, this was not the thing. Like, this was not my legacy. Like, I have another book series that I put my heart and soul to that actually, believe it or not, it's based on Iraq. And it's a fantasy series following some mercenaries, and it's like lighthearted fantasy. There is some PTSD and stuff. And so I made a new world over here from my experiences, but it's almost my coping mechanism. And so this makes me feel better, where this book is just like, if they were like, hey, we're going to do a movie deal tomorrow, I was like, great, I will never watch that movie. Like, don't ask me to go to the premiere. Like, don't ask me, like, you have my blessing.
It's like the journal you have. It's like it's just put away. You're like, I didn't want to look at that. It's just put away. You know what's in it. You can go back today and say, I know what I wrote.
Trashed. I actually because I had we had to move something, and I went through. I had books of poetry. I write poetry too. I write all kinds of. So I have layers of like me composition journals of just all this stuff, and I had to find a specific book that I wanted to put in to Word format, and I found it, and I was like, what is this? And I started reading it. My wife was beside me, and she's like, "Nope, put it away now." And I checked on one fact, and it was the fist. If you guys read the book Valhalla Boy, the fist in the leg, and I was like, "All right, it was good. I was right. Okay, I remember that." And I threw the book away, and I was like, "I'm done. This book is over with." So again, like, I really hope, it's a weird thing because I hope for success, but I don't care, and I'm done with that. Like, that's not something I want to ever, like, rehab.
You've accomplished the therapy request.
Yes, right. Yep. It's all done, and it's good. I love it. I think it's funny because the reviews are very polarizing, because, again, I give what I consider a very raw, unfiltered, accurate of what I was going through. Does it sound, I'm not trying to make myself sound good. If you read the book, like, I'm not like, I'm not trying to sugarcoat shit and be like, oh, what I was like, there was so much rage and anger, and like, you don't know where to put it, and like, you have these thoughts that like, and I know guys who have PTSD now that we talk about, that I like the red rage that comes on when like, you're standing in line at the coffee shop and some dude fucking is rude to you, and boom, you are just like off the chart, and it makes no sense. But it's just, you have nowhere to put this rage sometimes, and these feelings. And like, again, like you said, like, we're told not to say anything. We're told not to, especially while you're in. And so you internalize it. And when it comes out, it's never when you want. It's never.
Like you said, it's the toxic bubble just leaks out, dude.
Right. And so like,
that was the best way to put it.
Yeah. And so like, you're trying to find ways to like put it out there. and get it. But like, man, I've had moments where I freaked out at like random stuff while out in public, and like you realize, and like this is where like I think the lonely veteran thing comes into play, where I find it easier to shrink my world down to a couple people, and like, because like it
Sure.
sucks to be out in the world and all of a sudden you feel this rage, or you just start crying because something happened. You're just like, I don't know how to fucking cope with this. Like, and so like writing for me has been that really great outlet where I can do it at home. I'm my own boss. I'm sitting here and stuff like that. So
You remind me of the dude in Sublime right now, the son. You know the band Sublime?
oh yeah, I grew up on that.
His son has to play all of his dad's songs in the band. And he's like, you guys all think it's cool, but I have to always listen to my dad. I have to always listen to his voice. I have to always replay it. I have to always be exactly like him. He's like, it's like this double-edged sword, bro.
And that's what it is. And I think this is one of my best written pieces. Like, I really took my time with it. This was written over years. Like, this wasn't like a sit down and write it. And the editing crew did a phenomenal job with it. It was actually ordered different than the way you read it. So it was like funny story, bad story, funny story, bad story. And they're like, no. We're going to gut punch them. So it's like funny story, and then the roller coaster just falls. And like, they're like, and so like, even the way I wrote it was never meant to be like that. But like, you put it in the hands of a publisher, and it's just like, they made it a gem, and I'm really proud of it. But some people they don't understand. Like, you're a bad person. Okay. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like,
I guess that's what you think.
Yeah. Like, I really.
How's your cappuccino today?
Yeah, right. And that's kind of the funny thing, because I've actually had this awesome feedback from a lot of vets. So like, if you do read the book, please give me a review on Amazon, because that's how the book actually goes viral and actually grows. But don't feel like, I've had actually a lot of vets email me direct, because it's on the back of the book. Like, you can and be like, hey man, that was it. That was exactly what I felt and feel. And thank you for making it. And like that means the worlds to me. Like that to me has been just the thing that makes
the chills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad I got to capture that. Because a lot of like Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried for Vietnam. And you look at these certain books that go back in time, and you're like, I hope I captured in the way that he captured it, like the same kind of feelings and the same kind of thing, where you can live that story without being there. You can kind of put yourself in that position. And that's what I think is like, people like, if you've never been in that position, because I think I talk about like at one point, like if I was put in this situation again, I would take a shot that I didn't take in the book.
Yeah.
I had a girl write me, and she's like, how could you say that? And I was like, I'm not trying to be mean. And it wasn't like I'm not an aggressive person. But if your friends are on the line and it's between not and do, like you are lucky you don't live in a world where that is a choice you have to make, because there's
all the time
18 and 19-year-old, men and women in godforsaken places having to make those choices daily. And people just sit back and Monday morning quarterback, and you're just like, I don't even know how you begin to judge these people when, if you saw a quarter of what them, you would have shut down long ago. And they have to get up and do it every day. Cops, firefighters, like this is the military. There's people every day dealing with absolute trauma who have
nurses
to do it again.
Jeez.
And then you could and people are like, oh, he should have made a better choice. Like, all right. All right.
Oh, I'm going to be an ER nurse. Yeah, okay. Oh get ready for that every single day.
Right. I actually had an ER nurse girlfriend, believe it or not, in between my wives. Yeah. And she would tell me stories, and I was like, I've been through some shit. I don't know how you do your job at all. Yeah. I could never do that, to get up every day. And she would, and I had to be at one point her release valve, where she would be sitting in the shower and she'd tell me stories. And at one point I was like, okay, this story has to stop. Nope, not that story either. Like you start, she'd like, oh, and this baby? I was like, we're absolutely not talking about that. Like, sorry. Like how they get that up every day and do that is absolutely absurd to me. And God bless those men and women who
amazing
people across the board.
And all of our troops and all of our Marines. Let's just throw them all in there, okay? God bless you all, right?
We'll call them frontliners. Everyone who has to deal with trauma on a daily and then get up and do it again. Because most people deal with one trauma and then they're over it. And then, to get up and do it again is what makes you that warrior. That makes you that person that you're.
And to not be jaded.
Yeah.
And to still have empathy.
Oh, yeah. You start reading like,
oh, dude.
I don't know if you're into World War II, but I love World War II and history and stuff like that. And like they talk about the Australians literally making jokes as they're getting hit with mortar fire and half their platoon, and you're just like, the mindset of that, people are like, it's wild to think that there are, and that's what we're talking about, the indomitable spirit, where they're still making jokes as their guys because there's nothing else to do, and that's the person.
They had a Christmas moment in World War II where it was quiet.
Yeah,
that's that same type of spirit that it's like we can stop the war.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I mean, I love that story too. There's some good stuff. But no, I think
I love you. I think that another man can love another man.
Yeah, 100%.
and it can be platonic.
I until the military, could you have high school friends? And this is for everyone listening. Like, if you have high school friends and you have college friends, and you're like, oh, I grew up with this person and I love them. They're my best friend. You will never have relationships like you do in the military or if you share that real trauma together, like nurse to you're a nurse, firefighter, cop.
Trauma bonding.
Bonding is like suddenly you've known each other for 6 months and it's felt like you've shared a womb. And then that is the most amazing part of it, is like you truly become this like really tight-knit group where like you guys live together, eat together, shit together, like you do literally everything together for years, and you share all this trauma and you know each other inside and out, and there's no friendship like that. Like you're in college, you go home, you see them once, like people don't understand and so they don't understand, I think, the watching your friends get hurt because they're my high school friend, like, oh,
yeah,
like whatever. No, it's not. It's your brother, it's your sister, it's your mom, it's your dad. These are people that you love, like you said, platonically, more than maybe your family. And in fact, in some cases of a lot of the guys I met, it was more than family because their family were not the best places, and that's why they got to the military. And now they have this brotherhood, and they have this, like this family.
Someone's yelling at them and putting them in the ground, but they're like, you love me.
Right. Oh my God.
They're like, why are you not broken? Oh, you're giving me attention.
Yeah, 100%. Like it was wild because I was an older guy going in because I'd been through college, so I wasn't. I had left home. I lived on my own for 4 years.
Not quite homesick.
You're right, and so like I got to watch boot camp as this kind of like outward like experiment where like it was wild to watch dudes who had never left home, never experienced anything, be broken down, and like how they build them back up, and like that love. We had guys who would kill for our senior drill instructor by the end. Just 100%. Like
ready to go.
He was dad to them, and they loved him, and he loved them, and like I think they had better relationships with a guy they met for 12 weeks than any other family member they might have ever had. And they truly, if he said run into that wall until your head breaks, would have done it no problem. No problem.
Valhalla boys all day, every day, bro. That is the book. That is the book that you should go check out. This has been one of the best conversations I've had on my show. You're so easy to talk to, dude. We've been going for like an hour 30, and if my listener has listened this whole time, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And I could gut punch you with some questions, and I could ask some really demented things, but I want them to read the book and see what you put in that book. So go check out the Valhalla Boys, okay? Written by Brennan Morton, the man right here. Recon, sniper, silent, swift, deadly, 3 holes in the skull, okay? Gym owner, father, husband, son, okay? Educator, teacher. Dude, you're great, okay? And I hope success comes your way. And,
I hope
you could totally be in a band and keep writing your poems and submit them like Taylor Swift to artists. Have them become songs, I mean, that's another outlet for you, bro. If you got a stack of poems because you're poetic and theater kid, skater kid, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to say thank you. I've had you for so much time, and I know other people want you, but you're welcome back on the show anytime that you want to come back. And dude, I would be totally happy to have you in my circle of influence. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you have anything to say, I'll let you. Yeah, go ahead.
Check out my book, Valhalla Boys, and if you are at all interested in fantasy, Company of Bones has another book coming out soon. It's call it a military-based fantasy. It's how I took a lot of my PTSD, a lot of my angst and stuff like that, and I put it into a low magic fantasy world of like mercenaries and free companies and stuff like that. It's gotten great reviews. We're doing really well with it.
It's called Company of Bones.
Company of Bones is the first book. We're coming out with the second book soon. It's going to be about probably 10 to 12 book series, like Wheel of Time.
Same publisher?
Yeah, no, actually different publisher. Paladin Press.
Okay.
Actually got picked up by a different publisher for this one. Little boutique one. It's been awesome. But yeah, so it's been going awesome. But if you're at all like, and actually I've had a lot of military guys who read Valhalla Boys and went over to and they're like, you know what? I don't like fantasy, but this was awesome. It's very funny, very like, because I hate to say it's written by a military guy, so it's not cheesy. It's not the normal fantasy.
It's gonna be a little bit more detail oriented. I like that. I think I like it.
It's also human oriented. There's some other characters, but it's about humanity, and it's about my experience with death, with war, with it's my thoughts on that. So it comes off as a kind of a different breed of that kind of stuff. So it's been going really well. I hope it goes better.
So Company of Bones is out there, and then Valhalla Boys is the book that we want you to go check out right now. And if you have any questions, email him when you get the book, because it's on the back of the book.
Yep.
Okay? Simple. And on behalf of myself and my guest Brennan, and Brandon Webb, who runs the site and does so much, and my producer Callum, who puts us all together at the end of the day, I just want to say thank you for watching us and being a part of my life. And thank you, dude, for stepping up to come on my show. And
thank you for having me.
And dude, we went for an hour 35. I think you're my longest one so far. And we could keep going because it's like, come play Nintendo.
Yeah.
Come on over.
Hell
dude.
yeah. Like, that'd be funny shit.
See, there it is. See, I gotta call the show. I gotta say, otherwise we're gonna start doing up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select, start. Okay, so Contra all day. Mm-hmm. You're great, and I wish you many blessings in whatever faith that you believe in.
Thank you.
And to you out there that is thinking about popping a bunch of pills and drinking a bunch of stuff, try some thrills before you try those pills. Go to the gym, go work out, go snowboard, go ski, go walk your dog. If you don't got a dog, go get a dog. Okay, give yourself some type of purpose other than just kicking it back and popping them in. So, with that said, sofrep.com/merch. Got to sell the merch. Got to put the book club out there, which is book-club at sofrep.com. And this is Rad saying peace.
You've been listening to SOFREP Radio.